and we're super excited to share information about this new supportive tax credit, the Family Affordability Credit, and tax credits in general. Sounds like a boring topic, but we're super excited about the resources it can get to families. So before I jump in, let me pass to Terry to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name's Terry Pinney. I'm the Economic Mobility and County Relations Liaison at the Colorado Department of Early Childhood, and I work with Isabel on tax credit outreach, among other things, and so I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, I'm going to jump in. We are so excited to be talking to you as youth services librarians who serve early childhood in your communities because of the incredible connection you have to your communities and the opportunity to share this type of important information that so many families are missing out on. We will talk today a little bit about the Family Affordability Credit and other credits and the role that libraries can play in connecting community members to these resources, increasing financial well-being, increasing health and educational outcomes. And libraries are really leading in this space. Some libraries are sharing information, posting flyers, and even hosting free tax filing. And outreach can really be a range of actions, some of which don't take much time or effort. And Terry's going to talk more about that a little bit later in the presentation. So what we'll cover today is start from the same baseline of information. We'll talk about what tax credits even are and why they matter, what's new this year, what's important for families in our communities, and how we can easily connect families and caregivers to these resources, including resources like Get Ahead Colorado, volunteer income tax assistance sites, and free online tax filing. I do want to acknowledge that some of you have lots of experience and knowledge about tax, and others may not. Others of you may be completely new to the world of supportive tax credits. So we'll just set a little bit of baseline information before we jump into some of the details. So first, why do we care? Why are we thinking about economic mobility and tax credits together? Why should those of us who support helping getting resources to people care about this and getting people to file their taxes? And it's not really so that they pay what they owe, it's so that they can get the credits and refundable cash money that they are entitled to. It can be a lot of money, flexible money that families can spend how they choose. And we also know that poverty is a root cause of poor and inequitable health outcomes. And here you can see some of the specific impact of tax credits on health and educational outcomes, things like decreased infant mortality, decreased low birth weight, reduced engagement with the child welfare system and decreased child maltreatment, increased food security and ability to afford nutritious food, and increased educational and earnings outcomes across the life course and even across generations. This is what the research shows us. And this slide places tax credits in context with other benefits we might be more familiar with, like WIC and SNAP and childcare subsidies. Tax credits are right behind Social Security and the anti-poverty impact they have, particularly in reducing child poverty. And we in public health are used to referring to programs like WIC and SNAP, but we can also fold tax referral into those benefits conversations if you happen to be in them. If you sense that someone's in need, asking if they filed their taxes can really help connect them to resources. And libraries are in such a unique position to reach community members. So some populations miss out at higher rates than others, particularly people living on a low income. And this is because if you're living on a low income, you don't owe tax and you're not required to file taxes. So oftentimes people just don't engage with the tax system and they miss out on tax credits that they would get if they filed. Other groups that miss out are new parents. People who have a new baby might not realize they're eligible for the child tax credit. Grandparent caregivers, or anyone who has a child living with them for 6 months or more of a year. Immigrants, refugees, and newcomers tend to file at lower rates. People who do not speak English as their primary language, and then families living in rural areas often file at lower rates. So back to that baseline information, what is a tax credit? It's just a decrease in tax owed. And some tax credits just knock some money off what you owe. And other tax credits are refundable, which, as I said, means you get the money back as cash in a check or a direct deposit to your bank account. But to receive the credits, you have to qualify and you have to file a tax return. There are federal and state credits, and you have to file both a federal and state return to get all the credits that you're eligible for. And there are so many now, especially here in Colorado. You need either a social security number or something called an individual tax ID number or ITIN number to file a tax return. And an ITIN is something you can apply for and get. It does take a little while, like about 9 to 11 weeks. It does need renewal after a while. But if someone is interested in getting tax credits, if their children have a social security number, oftentimes they can get an ITIN number and claim those child tax credits, including the new Family Affordability Tax Credit. This new credit is just passed into law this year. We're having a special focus on it this tax season because it's such a game changer. It's just a huge opportunity to connect families to cash resources that can add up to thousands of dollars. A few details about the credit here that no one needs to know or memorize in any way. It's just to give you a sense of the amount we're talking about here. So it's up to $3,200 per eligible child who is 5 years or younger, and up to $2,400 for children who are between 6 and 16 years of age for this tax year. So parents, as I said, can claim that credit if their children have a social security number. And it's just quite a powerful really a new child tax credit that Colorado has enacted into law. And the amounts do vary on income levels, with higher credit amounts going to people with lower income levels. But again, no need to memorize this. It's just to make you aware that it's new. People don't know about it. They don't realize that if they don't file a tax return, they won't get this credit. And I'm going to put a really scary slide up next, but also just want to give you an idea of the amounts with some of the other supportive credits that are out there. So again, especially don't need to memorize all this information, but you can see some of the amounts are pretty high there for federal and state child tax credit and earned income tax credit. There will be a Tabor refund again this year, but it's a smaller amount. There are even other credits not listed here for education expenses, childcare expenses, and there's even a credit especially for early childhood educators who are credentialed through the Department of Early Childhood to receive a refundable tax credit. So all that to say that no need to know about individual credits. You can always find out more if you're curious, but really the point is just to connect people to tax filing, because once they file, they will get all of these credits through either the tax software they're using, free tax software is available, or through their paid preparer or free preparer. The credits really add up to a lot of money. They don't need to know about the individual credits, and nor do you, but just filing a tax return will connect them to these resources. So I'm going to pass it over to Terry to talk a little bit more in detail about how we can connect community members to these incredibly powerful anti-poverty tax credits. Terry.
Thanks, Isabel. So as Isabel said, we're not asking anyone to become a tax specialist. We certainly are not. We're asking you to ask families a simple question. Are you planning to file your taxes this year? Have you received tax credits? Do you know that there are tax credits available that you might be eligible for? Then refer them to the resources out there that we're going to go through today so they can get the job done. And yes, they can always go to H&R Block and all that, but there are some free sources that they can use to file their own taxes and get help doing so. 211 is also an option. They're a great partner of ours. You can call 211 to get information on how to get a VitaSite appointment, for example, and I'll talk about what those are. The Get Ahead Colorado website, Hacia Adelante Colorado in Spanish, is kind of your one-stop shop and your family's one-stop shop for tax information. It'll tell you how to file your taxes for free. It'll tell you what tax credits are out there. It'll tell you, and soon, if you go to the website today, it's not up yet, but soon to be up, will be a tax calculator where you just put in some simple information like your income and number of kids and ages of kids, and it'll spit back out a number to you of how much money you may be eligible for, because we are talking thousands of dollars for some lower income families. So when you go to Get Ahead Colorado, you'll see that you can file your taxes for free online if you have a computer or use the library computer. You can also do it from your smartphone. And then there are these things called VITA sites, volunteer income tax assistance sites. These are volunteers that are trained and certified by the IRS. They have a super high accuracy rate, over 90%, which is greater than many paid commercial preparers. And it's all free. Some are walk-in, but we recommend that most people try to make an appointment at a VITA site. You can make up to $67,000 and still get served for free. And to be honest, they're not checking that much. They're pretty, if someone comes in for help, they're pretty good about giving it. They've been doing it all for over 50 years. Here's a map that you will see on the Get Ahead Colorado website showing where the VITA sites are. There's also a spreadsheet, a list of them that you can look by county to find out which one is closest to you. So you can see a lot of them are in the metro area along the I-25 corridor, but they are spread out throughout the state. And again, 2-in-1 can help people get an appointment if they don't feel like calling themselves. But what we do tell people is that VITA site appointments do fill up quickly. So call early, call in January. Well, if they're not quite open yet, in February to try to get in this year. Another resource on the Get Ahead Colorado website is what we call our partner toolkit. It is in multiple languages, mostly English and Spanish, with some things in up to 19 languages. There are flyers, there are email blurbs, there are social media blurbs, all free stuff that you all can print and distribute to your families or hang in your lobby or whatever you want to do. And new this year, just for you guys, is the coloring sheet. This is a handout we imagine librarians can give at story time or in the children's section of the library, where on one side of the piece of paper is a blank coloring sheet of Happy Colorado, and on the other side is a flyer explaining the Family Affordability Tax Credit and encouraging people to file in order to get the tax credit. And this is in English and in Spanish. And Isabel, do you want to drop the links in the chat for this sheet?
It might take me a minute to find them, but I'll do my best. I think they're buried.
Okay, or I can at the end. I know where they
I
are
think
too.
they're buried in my tab. So we'll definitely get them to you during the webinar.
We'll get them to you.
Afterwards. Yeah. Thank you.
So we'll get them to you so you can print them out. Okay, next slide. Go ahead, Isabel. And then another, or a few more pieces that are in the partner toolkit I mentioned are tax credit basics, I-10 basics, how to get that number, steps you need to take to file your languages, and the tax document checklist, which is super important because not everybody knows everything that they need to get in order to file their taxes themselves, or before they go to a VITA appointment, or before they go to a for-profit preparer. So these documents are all there for you to print out and share, or just tell them that they're there so they can go see them. So here's a long list of ways libraries can engage on this issue. And we've already talked about a lot of them, like using that coloring sheet with families or posting flyers in your lobby about filing taxes. So this is a whole list of everything from easy stuff to you could become a VITA site. I know that a lot of people do use library computers. Sometimes libraries set aside a computer or two for tax filing. for the do-it-yourself. Oh, yeah, thank you, Nina, for that. Yes, AARP also has free tax sites, and those are on the Get Ahead website as well. You can see those as well. So take a look at this list and see if there are any ways you guys think you can engage with families this year. Here are a bunch of links that we talked about today, and you'll get a copy of this presentation afterwards. And finally, here are our emails if you want to reach out. If you have anyone else you'd like us to give this presentation to, if you have questions that aren't answered today, please do reach out. We're happy to help, and we really appreciate your time.
And Terry, for the coloring sheet, I think we'll send it out as PDF attachments because the links where they're living right now, just in case communications needs to do any tweaking after I added those codes, which could happen. They haven't had a chance to, I had to manipulate them a little bit to make the sizes match and whatnot. So they may have issues, in which case they would want to replace the links. And so we'll send them out as PDF.
Okay, so we're not quite ready. All right, we'll send out that coloring sheet then. But my understanding is the libraries can't download PDFs, so we need to give them a link.
Okay, I'm going to paste the links then anyway, and
okay,
we'll just go low.
Any questions from anyone? Stacy says she loves PDFs. You can't upload them. You can download them. Okay.
Just when we send it out, Terry will send it out on our listserv, and it doesn't allow us to link to a PDF in that. That's one of our challenges.
Okay. There was a question about becoming a VITA site. If you're interested in doing that, it depends where you are, but we would put you in touch with one of our partners who does the VITA sites. So could you reach out to Isabel specifically if you want more information on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a process. Excuse me. I saw Sadie join, and she's really an expert on dipping your toe into this. But it is doable. The hardest part is making sure that you have volunteers to provide. There are umbrella VITA sites like Tax Help Colorado that can really support the process, the technical process of getting certified with the IRS. Sometimes you can work with an existing VITA site to place volunteers or to train and certify the volunteers you've found or your own staff to work in your site with their oversight and support and reporting back to the IRS. And other times people decide to be their own VITA site. So,
you can search
but it is possible, and to do it incrementally to see how it goes. And the nice thing about providing tax services in your site, whether it's inviting volunteers from another VITA site in or doing it yourself, training your own volunteers or your own staff, is that tax season is pretty short and you don't have to do it every day, 8 hours a day. You can try it for, 2 afternoons a week and then spread the word that you'll have tax preparation going on. And it doesn't have to be a terrible commitment, but it is kind of hard to get the coordinator sometimes, and to make sure that you have the expertise to support filing and checking. You have to have 2 preparers always so that you can file and then do a check of that return to make sure it's correct before it's signed off on. And I'm happy to share more details if you want to reach out. And Sadie, if you want to add anything, I don't want to put you on the spot at all, but you're definitely an expert in this process of starting a VITA site from scratch.
And Isabel, there was a question in the chat about, do VITA sites ever offer services via Zoom? I believe the answer is no, but I'll defer to you.
Some did start doing that during COVID, and through Get Your Refund, which is a way that you can file with assisted virtual filing. You can access that service through the getahead.org website. It's a service provided by Code for America where trained preparers from VITA sites work directly with the filer to help them upload their documents and complete their tax return. And I believe sometimes that includes Zoom meetings, or it has in the past. It isn't very common. It seems like it should be, but it isn't as common as you might think. There's some VITA sites that allow you to drop off your documents and they prepare your tax return, and then you go back and pick it up later. I believe Denver Asset Building, DABC, does it that way in some cases. And the thing about Get Your Refund, those appointments fill up really fast early in the tax season, but it is out there. Thank you, Kate, for putting that link in. Oh, and Sadie, thank you for your email there, inviting folks to connect with you, and didn't see that you're driving, so sorry to put you on the spot. Be safe. Yeah, Keelan, that's so hard about the availability of VITA appointments in some parts of the state. There are definitely gaps, and there's efforts to expand VITA site coverage, but the tough part is finding volunteers to staff those. If anyone was ever interested in becoming a volunteer, that's also something you can do incrementally. You don't have to have financial or accounting experience, and people find it so rewarding that they usually return year after year, because you're literally helping people who aren't expecting oftentimes to receive money and are in need to get money. And the tax returns aren't complicated, because if they are complicated, they are referred to tax preparers that usually pay preparers or accountants. Like if someone owns property or pays other people or something like that, VITA isn't an appropriate place for them to file their taxes. But it can be incredibly rewarding to be a VITA volunteer. You can even be an intake volunteer. I've done that. And it's amazing to see the community members there getting their help and getting their money. Intake volunteers, you just greet people, help them make sure they have the right documents, and help get them to one of the preparers. Very easy to take a quick online test with the IRS and sign up for that and try it out. Wow, Kate, you are on it with the links. Thank you.
Trying my hardest here. Does anyone on the call have questions about ways to put out material, or does anyone do any kind of resource areas that they want to share about and talk about with the group here? And feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
While we're waiting, I wanted to mention that the link Colorado VITA is a good place to connect with that particular VITA network and volunteering with them. Colorado VITA is a specific network of VITA sites that only represents a small slice of the VITA sites available in Colorado, or volunteer opportunities available in Colorado. So it kind of sounds like, Colorado VITA, it's all of Colorado VITA, but their map and their website only link to their VITA site. So in Denver, for example, on their map, it just shows one, I think, VITA site in Denver, theirs, when in reality, there are lots of VITA and AARP sites in the Denver metro area that aren't on that map. So they're serving their network of VITA sites only through that website.
So what Christy put in the chat is my friend Ben. That is something you can learn about at the Get Ahead Colorado website as well. But just briefly, what it is, it's kind of like the calculator I mentioned. You put in some data about yourself and your income, and then it can come up with various benefits and tax credits that you might be eligible for. It's an excellent resource. It only takes a few minutes to do it. And there are over 50 benefits, and some of them are by county. So, and it's safe and secure. You do not have to give your email or, sign in, hand over your life in order to use the tool. You can just use it.
I'll just tag on the tax calculator Terry mentioned is supposed to go live tomorrow. Crossing our fingers that it actually does. There's lots of tech back end stuff that is in the works to make that happen, but we're hopeful that it goes live tomorrow on the getahead.org website. And it's a pilot, so we hope that it works and works well, that people can just quickly get an estimate of how much they might be eligible. And it doesn't even include all the credits, the education and childcare credits I mentioned earlier. It's child tax credit, federal and state, earned income tax credit, federal and state, and then the new family affordability credit all added up together. And the amounts are kind of eye-popping when you just practice and say, put in that you have 2 kids, maybe you make $35,000 a year, and the ages of your children, it's like, oh, $12,000 or so, pretty large amounts when you add up all of those credits together for qualifying families.
And again, feel free to put questions in the chat or unmute yourselves, but we will be sharing this video along with the toolkit and the coloring sheets out to libraries after as well. So lots of other ways to get information, but please feel free to ask anything that came up or any questions you have now as well.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for what you do working with families. And I should say, thank you for working with caregivers in general, because we know a lot of caregivers, whether they officially provide childcare or just a nanny or a grandma or an auntie, they come to you too for all kinds of things. And these are part of our target population too. So thank you so much.
Carrie, do you want to talk a little bit more about next year and the caregiver tax credit? So if anyone.
It up because it's confusing, but let me just say that not this year, but next year in 2026, when people file their taxes, there will be yet another tax credit for caregivers, which includes healthcare caregivers, but also childcare caregivers. So if you care for someone, at least one other person who is not your own child, and work 720 hours in the calendar year, you can get, is it up to about $1,200, Isabel?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, in a tax credit. So this will be available for people who work in childcare centers or family childcare homes, as well as informal family friend and neighbor caregivers. The catch is, and why we do like to bring it up this year, is that we are recommending that the informal caregivers start tracking their hours in 2025 so that they can prove, if ever audited, that they worked the 720 hours. But you don't have to prove it just to claim the credit. The only thing a caregiver has to do is later this year log on to the PDIS system at the Colorado Department of Early Childhood. That's the professional development system, and sign an attestation that you did work those 720 hours with children who are not your own. And then you can claim the credit the following year. So that's coming soon. And I'm sure we'll talk to you again next year and we'll explain in more detail. But the one reason we're kind of getting the word out now is that so informal caregivers can track their hours. And there is I can try to find it right quick. There's a link to the CDEC website that has more information on this tax credit.
I'm going to go ahead and share a link also to just a program evaluation. So if people here can let us know what more they want to learn about and how this went. That way we can continue to bring things to you that you're interested in.
Okay, here's the link to the care worker tax credit.
And a huge thanks to Isabel and Terry for being here with us as our experts, sharing all this information so we can get it out to families. I really appreciate both of your time and all of your knowledge. It's been amazing to learn. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks for
so much
having us.
having us.